AJ Hoggard will be playing college basketball in 2025, but it will not be for the Michigan State Spartans because it looks like Tom Izzo has said, no, AJ, please move on. And honestly, I can't blame him for it. Tom Izzo knows that he has been very selective in the portal. We know that he doesn't just take anybody onto his team, but it looks like Tom Izzo is also being selective now about who he keeps on his team with Matty Sissoko leaving, and we don't have much information on that one, but we did have an interview leaving, or an interview when AJ Hoggard was deciding on whether he was going to come back to college back in April, where Tom Izzo said this. He said, quote, AJ is looking to make a pro career. Izzo said, or end quote again, he could go back to college, but it wouldn't be here. I think we have some younger guys and he has exhausted his and he'll graduate, end quote. Basically saying AJ needs to move on. He's exhausted his time here. He's no longer going to be playing here. Do we know for sure that that was Tom Izzo's sole decision? That's not exactly what he said, but if we gain from how the past few games and seasons have gone with Tom Izzo, some of the body language that AJ Hoggard was demonstrating, it would certainly be appearing that Tom Izzo told AJ Hoggard, please move on. And at the end of the day, many will look at this and say, oh, this is a bad look for Tom Izzo, telling his senior guard to move on. This is just college basketball nowadays. AJ Hoggard has the option to go have a pro career in Europe or some other country, but he also has the option to keep playing in college because of his COVID year. Tom Izzo by no means has to keep him on his roster. And at the end of the day, the best coaches in college basketball not only use the portal to gain players, but they also use the portal to subtract players. How many players enter the portal that were not getting minutes, were not being a huge contributor, a huge part of the team? Now, we can argue what is the correct philosophy. What should somebody be doing? But at the end of the day, this is how coaches are now able to operate because players can leave and continue their education elsewhere. At the end of the day, Michigan subtracting AJ Hoggard, it makes sense. I like the move personally. New guards Trey Holloman and Jeremy Fears Jr. Of course, Jeremy Fears Jr. having his terrible incident last year with being shot, and we hope that he is continuing to recover well and we can be completely good for next season. But at the end of the day, AJ Hoggard, he dropped his points, assists, rebounds, and minutes all dropped from his junior to senior year. And it doesn't look like AJ Hoggard was making much of a difference on the court. He looked somewhat disinterested at times, looked like he was only showing up for certain games. If you listen to the Michigan State fan base, they were definitely not happy with what they were seeing from him. So maybe AJ just needs a change of atmosphere. We talk about how this is better for Michigan State. At the end of the day, sometimes this kind of stuff is just better for the player too. We look at many players in college basketball and college football who they transfer, they change where they are going, and it turns out that a lot of these players, things are much, much better for them. Take Khalil Ware at Indiana, for instance. Didn't have the best year ever at Oregon, goes to Indiana, has a change of atmosphere, gets with a coach who is able to develop him better. Maybe Mike Woodson's a better coach than Dana Altman. At the end of the day, Dana Altman is a very established coach, very much history and what he's been able to do. But Mike Woodson was the one that was able to get the best out of Khalil Ware. So maybe AJ Hoggard just needs to go to a different coach who can get the best out of him. Does that mean they're going to be a better coach than Tom Izzo? Not necessarily, but maybe they are going to be able to get more out of him. When we look at AJ Hoggard's game, good passer, really like what he's able to do passing the ball, can be a good defender when he chooses to be. That's the thing with defense. You need to choose to want to do that. And like I said earlier, we have questions about if AJ Hoggard was giving maximum effort every single game. Decent at getting to the rim, but quite frankly, the leadership is just not there. He looks disinterested at times, like I talked about. He didn't look like he was fully there when talking to Tom Izzo multiple times, and tons of rumors of off the court stuff, which they're just rumors. We don't need to get into them here. But at the end of the day, he was not somebody that was going to be a leader for this team, like it seemed like they were kind of relying on him to be this season, which is part of the reason why it might be best for him to move on. Now, AJ Hoggard's top 5 schools, they're all downgrades for Michigan State, quite honestly. John Rothstein sent out a tweet about his top 5 schools and who they are, and every single one of them is a massive downgrade from Michigan State. Now, they are all still Power 5 teams, SEC or Big Ten, so two of the best conferences out there, but these are some of the not so great programs in the Big Ten and the SEC right now. First one being Florida. These are not the same years that Billy Donovan was here. One tournament appearance since COVID, and quite frankly, this is a football school. This is a school where people care more about football than anything else. It was wonderful what they were able to do in the mid 2000s with the back to back national championships, but that's not something that you see happening again and again here at Florida, because it was more of a coach thing rather than a program thing. And this is a program that is not in a great place right now, that's not firing on all cylinders. AJ Hoggard is not going there to spend 4 years there and try to build something. He's coming in for 1 year, and honestly, this next year does not look super promising for Florida. Georgia, possibly the worst basketball program of all time in the SEC. One tournament appearance since 2011. They hire a Power 5 retread coaches in Tom Crean from Indiana after he got fired there, and Mike White after he was pushed out the door at Florida. And like I said, quite frankly, this is just the worst basketball program in the SEC. They don't look like they have a super good future for next year. They've brought in some good transfers here and there, but this is nothing where they have a transfer class like Indiana is bringing in, where things are looking bright for the future. Maybe they didn't have the best year ever, but things are looking up. Georgia does not look to be a powerhouse by any means next year, which, like I said, is the 1 year AJ Hoggard will be there. The next program is Vanderbilt. They've been in the tournament once since 2016. And let's not forget, Bryce Drew, the head coach at Grand Canyon University, was at Vanderbilt. In his 3 seasons at Vanderbilt, he won less games than Bryce Drew won in his first 2 seasons at Grand Canyon, which you might say, oh, okay, he went down to a lower level. Maybe he found the right players, made some things happen. Grand Canyon has only been a school for like 10 years or something like that. They've not been around in the Division One for very long at all. Bryce Drew is only their second head coach ever since joining Division One basketball. This is not a situation where this is a powerhouse team that he went to and he was just able to win right away. Bryce Drew built this program, but he failed to build a program at Vanderbilt because, quite frankly, Vanderbilt just is not a basketball school. It's not a school that cares enough. This is not a program that is any good necessarily. They have some good things here and there, but at the end of the day, their winningest head coach was a cheater. And he did not ever have a single winning season at Pitt, where he got fired for discovered his cheating there as well. So, on combination of you're not a good coach and you're a cheater, you should at least be a good coach if you're cheating. But Kevin Stallions, not a good situation. Stallings, sorry, thinking of a different cheater. That's not a good situation for Vanderbilt, and their program just overall is not a successful one. The next program that he's thinking about, Big Ten program, because there are 2 of them, is USC. Now, USC, you might be saying, hey, this isn't a downgrade. They have Eric Musselman. They're bringing in some new guys. Eric Musselman has had some very high highs. He's been a very good coach at times, but he's also had some low lows. Let's not forget this last year was an absolute disaster, not only for his basketball program, but also for the basketball culture of the players there. And people had all different kinds of rumors of what was going on all year long. Like I said, we're probably not going to get into those, but at the end of the day, just a not so great situation for Musselman last year. He gets hired on UCLA, where they have 2 Sweet 16 visits in the past 20 years. 2 Sweet 16 visits in the past 20 years. And honestly, if you look at the history of it, USC is much closer to Vanderbilt than they are to Michigan State. Look at some of these stats. All-time win percentage, USC 57.7%, Vanderbilt 57.1%, Michigan State 61.2%. Weeks ranked in the AP, USC 205, Vanderbilt 204, Michigan State 492. More than the 2 schools combined. Conference championships, USC 8, Vanderbilt 6, Michigan State 22. Final 4 visits. Granted, USC has 2, Vanderbilt has none, Michigan State has 10. National championships, USC 0, Vanderbilt 0, Michigan State two. This is not a situation where USC is a similar program to Michigan State. Michigan State is by far and away the better program. They have by far and away the better coach than Eric Musselman, who, like I said, he might be kind of a hot coach right now because of some of the stuff he was able to do recently, but he is still coming off a very bad season. And at the end of the day, Eric Musselman, one top 10 finish in his coaching history at Arkansas and where he was before that as well. 5 years in Power 5 men's basketball in the SEC there. Missed the tournament this year, like we already talked about. And he has a worse win percentage, only coaching a third of the time than Tom Izzo. Tom Izzo has a better win percentage all time in 29 years of coaching to Eric Musselman's 9 or 10 years of coaching. And he has a third of the games in a worse win percentage than Tom Izzo. This is not a situation where Eric Musselman is as good of a coach as Tom Izzo, at least over time. If you want to argue right now, they maybe are a similar coach. Perhaps we can get into that because of some of Tom Izzo's struggles with the portal. But I think what Tom Izzo is doing this year would show you that Tom Izzo is indeed using the portal in a better way this season than he has in the past. And finally, his final top 5 option AJ Hoggard is looking at is Washington. Washington is a program with so history, terrible success recently, but they have a pretty good history here in the past, program years. But one tournament appearance in the past 10 years, just not very good. Darius Sprinkle, he's a hot coach. Might say he's an even hotter coach right now than Eric Musselman was because he did, but of course his success was all at the lower level. He has won the conference. He did win the Mountain West Conference with Utah State this last year, his very first year there. So that is impressive. But at the end of the day, this is not a program that's anywhere near Michigan State. And this is a coach that, while, yes, things are looking good and things have been good recently, he only had 1 year in the Mountain West. And before that, he was down at the lower level of college basketball. Granted, did go to the tournament a couple times there at Montana State, but at the end of the day, just not a great success rate for him over longevity. He's had a good success rate recently, but nothing over the longevity. But I'll be honest, I like this fit for Washington with AJ Hoggard better than I do anything else. He pairs well with DJ Davis, who comes in from Butler, and Makai Mason, who comes in from Rice. Both were 13 points per game or more on the season, and both shot 34% or higher from 3 on the season. So I like the combination of AJ Hoggard with these two guards. I think that you would see all 3 possibly play together. I think you're more likely to see a rotation of AJ, Davis, and Mason. However, at the end of the day, this is probably the best situation for AJ Hoggard. And I got to be honest, between Washington and USC, Washington plays at the Breslin Center next year. So I'd much rather see AJ Hoggard play at the Breslin Center rather than see Michigan State go and see USC. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Tell me, are you thinking that any of these schools that AJ Hoggard has listed are not a downgrade, or are you like me and think all of these options are a downgrade and Michigan State will be better moving forward? Let me know what you think in the comments below.